Everyone left me when my house burned down, but when I got rich, they all came crawling back. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd write one of these long confessional posts, but here I am. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to lose everything, to be treated like trash by the people you thought loved you, and then to watch those same people show up smiling when your life finally turns around, this is my story. The fire that took everything. 5 years ago, my life went up in literal flames. I was living in the small 2-story house I inherited from my grandparents. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I had a stable job at a local printing company, a small circle of friends, and a girlfriend of 3 years named Melissa. My parents lived 2 towns over, my sister Jenna was married with kids, and my friends were mostly people I'd known since high school. One cold January night, an electrical fault in the basement caused a massive fire. I woke up to smoke and alarms at 2 a.m. and barely made it out with my dog. By the time the firefighters arrived, the entire structure was engulfed. Everything, family heirlooms, photos, furniture, my clothes, was gone. Insurance? I had a policy, but it turned out my coverage was outdated. They gave me just enough to cover a few months' rent in a cheap apartment and some basic necessities. Nothing close to what I needed to rebuild. That night, standing in the snow watching 25 years of my life burn, I thought, at least I'm not alone. My family and friends will help me get through this. I couldn't have been more wrong. When the dust settled, so did the truth. At first, everyone sounded sympathetic. My parents hugged me and said, "Call if you need anything." My sister brought over a bag of hand-me-down clothes from her husband. My friends texted things like, "We got you, man." But sympathy is cheap. Real support never came. My parents offered me their couch for a week or two, but made it clear they didn't want a long-term guest. My sister said her house was too chaotic with the kids. My best friend Ryan said, "You can crash here anytime," but when I asked, he suddenly remembered his girlfriend was uncomfortable with roommates. Melissa, the woman I thought might be my future, stayed with me for 3 nights in my smoky motel room before telling me she needed space to think. 2 weeks later, she broke up with me over text. Within a month, I was living in a dingy 1-bedroom apartment with peeling wallpaper and a leaky ceiling, working overtime just to afford groceries and a mattress on the floor. I was depressed, broke, and completely alone. The people who claimed to love me vanished as soon as helping me required real effort. It hurt more than the fire. The grind. Those first 2 years were brutal. I worked my printing job during the day and picked up night shifts at a warehouse just to pay off debts. I ate ramen and dollar store canned soup. I sold my grandparents' old jewelry, what little I'd salvaged, to cover car repairs. But here's the thing about losing everything, it forces you to see the truth about people, and it lights a fire of a different kind inside you. I started taking online courses in graphic design and digital marketing during my few free hours. I'd always been good with design software, and I figured it was my best shot at a better future. By the 3rd year, I was freelancing on the side. By the 4th, I had my own small business designing branding packages for local companies. I worked 16-hour days. I sacrificed weekends, sleep, and any kind of social life. Slowly, the money started coming in, first hundreds, then thousands. And then came the breakthrough. The big break. One of my freelance clients, a startup clothing brand, blew up after a celebrity wore their gear on Instagram. They credited me for their entire brand identity and connected me with other big names. Within a year, I had contracts with several national companies. I went from barely affording rent to pulling in more in a month than I used to make in a year. I bought a new house, bigger, nicer, with a private office and a backyard for my dog. I paid off every debt, bought a reliable car, and set up a retirement account. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving. I was thriving. And that's when they started showing up. The return of the loved ones. It started with my sister Jenna. I hadn't heard from her in almost 2 years, aside from the occasional "Merry Christmas" group text. One day, she called out of the blue. "Hey stranger. I heard from Mom that your business is doing amazing. We should totally catch up." I played it cool, but inside I felt my stomach turn. This was the same sister who couldn't even spare her guest room when I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. A week later, my parents invited me to family dinner, for the first time in years. My mom gushed about how proud she was of me. My dad asked if I'd considered investing in a family vacation home. They never mentioned the months I begged them for help. Then came the friends. Ryan texted, "Dude, we should hang out. Been too long. I heard you're killing it." Even Melissa, my ex who dumped me at my lowest, sent a late-night DM, "I've been thinking about you. We should grab coffee sometime." It was like they smelled money. The confrontations. At first, I tried to be polite. I'd meet for dinner, keep conversations light, and deflect questions about my finances. But it quickly became obvious why they were really there. My parents, jokingly, suggested I help pay off their mortgage so they could finally relax. Jenna hinted that her kids would love a bigger backyard if only they could afford to upgrade their house. Ryan pitched a business idea that sounded suspiciously like a pyramid scheme. Melissa told me she regretted leaving me and thought, maybe fate is giving us a second chance. Every interaction felt like a transaction. No one apologized for abandoning me. No one even acknowledged it. They acted like the years of silence never happened. The final straw came when my parents tried to guilt-trip me during a family dinner. "We're not getting any younger," my mom said. "It would mean a lot if you could make sure we're, taken care of." I put my fork down, looked her in the eye, and said, "Where was this family when I was sleeping on a mattress in a moldy apartment? Where was this love when my house burned down and I begged for help?" The room went dead silent. My dad muttered something about hard times and boundaries, but I stood up and left. That was the last family dinner I attended. Living my own life. It's been a year since I cut contact with most of them. I keep my circle small, 2 genuine friends I met after the fire, my dog, and a few colleagues I trust. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh. But then I remember sitting alone in that freezing apartment, calling people who wouldn't pick up the phone. Money didn't change me. It just revealed them. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Family isn't who shares your blood. Friends aren't who show up when the champagne is flowing. Real love is proven in ashes, not in mansions. And when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. The fire was years ago, but the smoke is still following me. It's been almost a year since I posted about my family and so-called friends crawling back once I got rich. I thought drawing boundaries would end the drama. I was wrong. Apparently, money doesn't just attract people, it keeps them orbiting like flies around a light. The guilt campaign. After I stopped showing up to family dinners, my parents began what I can only call a guilt campaign. It started small: "We miss you, life is too short for grudges, your nieces and nephews ask about you." Then came the heavier stuff. Handwritten letters from my mom about the importance of family, and voicemails from my dad saying he'd had chest pains and wanted to make peace. I'm not heartless. I almost caved after a particularly emotional voicemail where my mother cried and said, "We made mistakes, but parents always love their children. Please don't punish us forever." I agreed to meet them at a neutral cafe. I even rehearsed a calm speech in my head about boundaries and forgiveness. The first 20 minutes were civil. We talked about the weather, my dog, my business. Then my dad leaned forward and dropped the real reason for the meeting. "Your sister's house is too small for the kids. If you could help with a down payment, it would change their lives." It felt like being punched. I realized the tears, the letters, the guilt, they weren't about reconciliation. They were a sales pitch. I paid the check and left without a word. Sisterly schemes. Jenna wasn't subtle either. She began posting pictures of her kids with captions like, "Wish Uncle would visit, if only we had a bigger place to host family." Friends started texting me screenshots with, "Is she talking about you?" Yes. Yes, she was. One night she called, pretending it was just to catch up, but within minutes she was describing a dream house they'd found and how the bank just needs a little extra for closing. When I said no, she snapped. "You're selfish. After everything Mom and Dad did for you, this is how you repay them. You're swimming in money and can't help family." I hung up. I haven't answered a call from her since. The X-Files. Melissa, my ex, deserves her own section of horror. After months of sending, just checking in, messages that I ignored, she escalated to public tactics. She showed up at a networking event where she knew I'd be speaking. She cornered me during the reception, acting like nothing had happened. "You've changed so much," she said, eyes sparkling like we were in a romantic comedy. "I made a mistake leaving. We were meant to build this life together." I reminded her, politely, somehow, that she left when I was sleeping on a moldy mattress. Her smile cracked for a second, but she quickly recovered. People panic. I was scared. But look at us now, we can start fresh. Security had to escort her out after she tried to follow me to my car. That was the night I upgraded my home security system. The lawsuit I didn't see coming. Just when I thought the circus couldn't get any messier, Ryan, the former best friend, who ghosted me after the fire, sent me a letter through a lawyer. He claimed he had contributed consulting work to my early design business and demanded a share of profits. This was a guy who couldn't even lend me a couch when I lost my house, now trying to say he built my company. My lawyer laughed when he read the claim. We sent back a polite but firm cease and desist. Ryan backed off, but the betrayal cut deep. The man who once called me his brother tried to sue me for money he never earned. Therapy and perspective. I'll admit it, I wasn't okay for a while. Every phone notification felt like an ambush. I started losing sleep, replaying conversations in my head, wondering if I'd somehow invited all this chaos. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, helped me name what was happening: financial abuse. She explained that when someone suddenly becomes successful, especially in a family that's used to struggling, relatives can develop a sense of entitlement. They convince themselves they're owed a piece of the pie because blood is blood. Hearing those words lifted a weight I didn't know I was carrying. It wasn't my job to fix anyone's finances. It wasn't cruel to say no. Boundaries are love directed inward. Turning the tables. With my therapist's encouragement, I took back control. 1. No contact list. I blocked Jenna's number and muted my parents' calls. I told them any future communication had to be through email, so I'd have a paper trail. 2. Public statement. I posted a carefully worded update on social media thanking everyone who supported me during hard times, and clarifying that I do not invest in personal loans. It was polite but clear. 3. Tight circle. I built a small but genuine friend group, people I met after I became successful. They only know me as the person I am now, not the broke, desperate version they could exploit. A twist of karma. Here's the part one haven't shared anywhere else. A month ago, I learned through a mutual acquaintance that Jenna and her husband finally bought a bigger house. How? They convinced my parents to refinance their home to help with the down payment. Now my retired parents are stuck with higher monthly payments, and Jenna still complains about unexpected expenses. My parents emailed me last week asking if I could temporarily help with their mortgage while they get back on their feet. I didn't reply. It sounds cold, but I refuse to bail them out of choices they made while ignoring every warning sign. They gambled on my guilt. I'm done playing. Where I am now. Despite all this chaos, life is good. My business is thriving. I've started traveling, something I couldn't dream of when I was broke. I bought a small cabin by a lake where I spend weekends with my dog, away from ringing phones and emotional blackmail. Sometimes, sitting on the porch watching the sun dip below the trees, I think about that night 5 years ago when I stood in the snow watching my old house burn. Back then I thought the fire destroyed my life. Now I see it burned away the illusions. The people who loved me only when I was comfortable were never family. The friends who disappeared when things got hard were never friends. The ashes gave me clarity and freedom. I thought I'd seen every trick in the book: guilt, lawsuits, public ambushes. I was wrong. This past month, my family crossed a line I never imagined they'd dare. The unexpected visit. It started on a rainy Thursday evening. I'd just gotten home from a client meeting and was settling in with a book when my security cameras pinged my phone. The alert showed 3 figures standing at my gate: my parents and my sister Jenna. My heart dropped. I hadn't seen them in person for almost a year. I watched them on the monitor as they rang the bell, pounded on the gate, and shouted my name. Jenna was holding an umbrella and a folder of papers. My mom was crying. My dad looked furious. For 10 minutes, I just stood there, frozen. Part of me wanted to call the police. Part of me wanted to open the door and scream. Instead, I pressed the intercom button. "Why are you here?" I said, my voice shaking but cold. "I told you, no unannounced visits." My mother's tear-streaked face tilted toward the camera. "Please," she said. "We need to talk. It's important." I should have told them to leave. But some part of me, the part that still remembers birthdays and Christmas mornings, let them in. The pitch. The second they stepped inside, the air changed. My parents looked around the house like realtors sizing up a property. Jenna clutched her folder like a weapon. After a few awkward pleasantries, Jenna pulled out a stack of papers and spread them on the dining table. "We're in trouble," she began. "The new house needed more repairs than we expected. Mom and Dad refinanced their mortgage to help us, and now everyone's drowning in debt. We're weeks away from foreclosure." She slid a document toward me. "If you could just co-sign a small loan, the bank will approve a restructure. It's nothing for you, one signature." My dad jumped in. "We're not asking for a handout. Just help your family secure the loan. You have the credit. It won't cost you a dime." My mother nodded, crying harder. It was a perfectly rehearsed performance, numbers highlighted, emotional appeals lined up like dominoes. They even brought photos of my nieces to remind me who I'd be helping. For a moment, the old guilt surged. This was my family, the people who raised me. But then I remembered the motel room after the fire. The ignored calls. The silence when I begged for help. I pushed the papers back across the table. "No," I said. "I will not sign anything. I will not co-sign. I will not give money. You chose this. You live with it." Jenna's face twisted into something ugly. "You're unbelievable," she snapped. "Do you even hear yourself? We're drowning, and you're sitting in this mansion acting like a king." I stayed calm. "When my house burned down, where were you? When I begged for a couch to sleep on, where were you?" My dad slammed his fist on the table. "That was different," he shouted. "We had our own problems. You can't hold that against us forever." "You're right," I said. "I can't. And I don't. But I also don't owe you anything." The silence after that was deafening. The threat. That's when Jenna played her last card. "If you won't help, we'll tell everyone how cruel you are. The community will know you let your own parents lose their home while you hoarded money." I laughed, actually laughed. It startled all of us. "Go ahead," I said. "Tell them. Tell the same people who watched you abandon me when I was homeless. Tell them the whole story. I dare you." Her mouth opened, then closed. My dad muttered something under his breath. My mom just cried. I stood, opened the door, and said, "This conversation is over. Leave." They hesitated, but eventually they walked out into the rain. The fallout. 2 days later, my phone blew up. Mutual acquaintances sent screenshots of Facebook posts from Jenna, long rants about ungrateful children and family betrayal. She didn't name me directly, but everyone knew. Instead of sympathy, though, the responses shocked me. People commented things like, "Funny how you disappeared when he lost everything. Maybe take responsibility for your own finances. Sounds like you're trying to guilt someone into paying your bills." Apparently, my quiet updates over the years, thanking those who supported me during hard times, had done their job. People knew the truth. For the first time, they were the ones being judged. The aftermath. My parents sent one last email a week later. "We're disappointed in you. We never thought you'd turn your back on family like this." I didn't reply. From mutual contacts I learned they sold some valuables and found a debt counselor. They're keeping their house, for now, but Jenna and her husband are still drowning in repairs. They've stopped posting about me. Finding peace. I won't pretend it's easy. Some nights I lie awake replaying that rainy evening, my mother's tears, my father's anger, Jenna's threats. A part of me still aches for the family I wish I had. But therapy has taught me this. You can mourn the family you wanted while protecting yourself from the family you got. The fire 5 years ago destroyed more than a house. It revealed the rot that had been hidden in the walls of my relationships. Money didn't break my family. It just exposed what was already broken. Moving forward. Last weekend, I hosted a small gathering at my lake cabin, just a few close friends, people who have proven their loyalty through action, not blood. We grilled burgers, played music, and laughed until midnight. For the first time in years, I felt completely safe. As I watched the fire crackle in the stone pit, I realized something poetic. The first fire took everything. This fire gave warmth. I finally understand that family isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who shows up when the flames are high and the night is cold. And those people, my real family, were sitting right there with me.